Hi Silva, welcome. So you know that my father is from the US and my mother is from Wales, a small country in the United Kingdom, right by England. Um, and so when we visited England in the past, we have noticed that there are some big cultural differences between Wales and England and the US. So one of the most surprising things is the different views around underage drinking in England versus the US. So here in the US, it's you when you go to dinner with your family, the parents usually don't share alcohol with the kids. They don't give them any drinks or talk about it with them a lot. Alcohol is just kind of a no for kids. But in England, the alcohol is shared with kids at dinner time from when they're pretty young. Not a lot, but a glass or so with dinner up until they're teenagers. And then obviously when they're adults, they can drink however much they want to. And I guess the difference is in England, the drinking age is 18, while in the US it's 21. But I noticed that even with kids under 18 in England, they're okay with drinking. There's a much more open culture around underage drinking in England. So I wanted to share with you some different ways I could write about that to show some variety in writing. So there are some different ways I can write sentences for talking about this difference. So I could use the conjunction but. So here in our visual we have the statement, parents in the US usually don't share alcohol with their children. And then I could use but to say, or you always put a comma before the conjunction, we remember. But it is normal for parents in England to give their kids a drink with dinner. So that is a way to express a difference, but we only use to express difference. But another conjunction we use is yet. There, yet. And yet expresses a difference and also a surprise. So, like a but, you would put a comma before that. And so something that might be a little more surprising about this difference is that in my family, so my parents, we live in the US, we're an American family, yet my parents have always let me have a drink with dinner. So that's surprising because we live in the US, but my parents have different views on underage drinking. So they that have created this difference for me in my life than what is usual in the US. So on your paper, you also have one of these. I've put two sentences. The example I just gave for my family. In the US, most parents don't share alcohol with their children until they're 21. My parents allowed me to drink with them at dinner as a child. So could you put those two sentences together using the conjunction yet to show surprise for me? Yeah, just write it down and remember to put a comma before the conjunction. And then we'll look at your answer afterwards. Fast forward. And then another way to write about this difference is using subordinators. So a subordinator that shows difference is while. And so the statement would be like the last one I gave. We have our visual. Parents usually don't share alcohol. Parents in the U.S. usually don't share alcohol with their children. And then, comma, while it is normal for parents in England to give their kids a drink with dinner. And then with this subordinator, it's we always put it before the surprise statement or the statement that expresses the difference. And then it's also normal, I think you'll remember this from before, that we can change the order of the two sentences. So we could say, put the subordinator at the beginning, say, while it is normal for parents in England to give their kids a drink with dinner, comma, parents in the US usually don't share alcohol with their children. Or we could do it the other way, like I said the first time, where we do parents usually don't share in the US, don't usually share alcohol with their children, comma, while parents while it is normal for parents in England to give their kids a drink with dinner. So that subordinator, while, shows difference. But if we wanted to show difference and surprise, have more of a feeling of surprise in our writing, we could use the phrase even though. So this subordinator shows difference and surprise. So on your paper, I want you to look at the two sentences I provided about my example. That's a little bit of more surprising difference in my family from what is normal in the US. And write a sentence using even though. Okay, so we'll do that. And then I would check it, make sure they had done it, and explain that they could switch around the sentence if they needed. And then the third way we can write about this difference is using transitions. So you might remember from before that the transition word however shows a difference, but not surprise, like but and while shows difference. So here in our visual we have parents in the US usually don't share alcohol with their children. And then, however, it is normal for parents in England to give their kids a drink with dinner. And with these transition words, you might remember that the word always goes at the beginning of the clause or creates a new sentence. And it's only a clause when you have a semicolon between the two independent clauses, because however makes this an independent sentence, an independent clause. So usually these transition words make a new sentence and are at the beginning of the sentence. So, however expresses a difference, but we have another phrase that shows difference and surprise. So that phrase is nevertheless, right there, nevertheless. And so it shows how something is different, but also maybe unexpected. The result is not what was expected, so it's surprising. So on your visual, with the sentences about how my example about how my parents give me alcohol is different from what's usual in the US, I would like you to create a sentence or create two sentences or one sentence with a semicolon using nevertheless. And remember that a comma always goes after the transition word as well. If you're using however or nevertheless, a comma will go after that before the clause that shows a difference or surprise. So they would do that. And a final way, not the final way, but the final way we're going to work with today in showing this difference in writing is with preposition. So the preposition instead of prepositional phrase shows difference. So in our visual, we have, like all the other examples, parents in the U.S. usually don't share alcohol with their children. And then in our surprising or our different statement, we have, instead of keeping their kids closed off from alcohol, parents in the United Kingdom openly talk about and share alcohol with their kids. And just like transition words, prepositional phrases often go in the beginning of sentences because they're expressing a contrast, difference, and they introduce that difference. So instead of shows that difference, and another preposition we have that shows difference and surprise is despite, right here, despite. So despite is like the same as nevertheless and yet, in that it shows surprise and difference, as opposed to just pointing out the difference between two things. So in our two sentences about my family, I would like you to find where you can put despite as the contrasting phrase. So because my parents didn't give me alcohol, or did give me alcohol, that was very different from what's usual here. And so you could say, despite cultural norms in the U.S., Bronwyn's parents gave her alcohol when she was underage. That's one example. I would like you to come up with a different example on your sheet. So, fast forward, they would do that. And now for our next activity, I want you to write a short essay, a couple paragraphs long, contrasting cultural differences between your country, yours, and the U.S. And I want you to use some of these words we've just gone through, like however, nevertheless, and despite, to show how these differences are surprising. Not just different, but also surprising.